We are here today with Tim Quast, a follower of Jesus, a lover of poetry, and emerging poet himself, and one of the few people on earth who bear living proof that there is no such thing as a left or right brain. He is gifted in both mathematics and the arts. So, Tim, why don't you start out by telling us just a little bit about yourself and how you began to be involved with poetry?
Well, it had always been on my heart to write poetry and kind of express myself with literature and English. And my roommate in college was very discouraging about that. He was very convinced that all poets are bad except for a very small few, and so that was I internalized that. And but one day recently, I was walking my dog and talking to Jesus, and I felt like he laid on my heart to come to the library and check out a book on poetry. And so, without giving me much clarification, I just decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to obey Jesus. So I came to the library and went up to the front desk to ask if they knew anything about poetry. And then my friend Zach Wise, who's interviewing me now, heard me asking about this, and then followed me. He chased me down into the poetry section and helped me pick out a few poetry books to get started on reading, and invited me to this open mic. And the open mic was like, where you're invited to write your own poetry and read it. And I'm super not shy about speaking in front of groups. And so I was like, all right, motivation to write. And I'm kind of like a last minute poet. So if it's due today, that's when I'm going to start. And so, working on the motivation, but definitely really enjoying it, and having a skill set that feeds into it of music. I'm a trained musician. I've learned how to play classical saxophone and piano and guitar, and so I've got this music skill set. And then also, reading. I'm an avid reader. People give me books all the time because they know I'll actually read them. And just a lot of skill sets that feed in to also, like Zach was saying, I have a math degree. That's what my training and my vocation is math. And so I have this logical mindset too, and combining those skill sets together has made me effective at actually writing some poetry, though I have a lot to growing to do as far as that goes.
Definitely. So when this oddball Zach followed you, what books of poetry did you end up checking out? What did you like? What did you not like? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, we had one person. I forgot one of the authors' names, but one of them. Okay. Yeah. Gotta be talk quieter. So one of the authors was William Blake, and I didn't really like William Blake, and the reason is, well, one, for the archaic English, but two, he's got some spiritual beliefs that are outside of the central tenets of Christianity, and that's kind of, I feel like God was wanting me to wrestle with those, or at least experience them and feel confident that I'm not going to have my mind corrupted by just reading some poetry. That's a true fact, that if I read some poetry, it's not necessarily going to corrupt my mind. Obviously, I don't want to read smutty stuff or anything, but definitely was challenging to read his poetry, and I didn't really appreciate it that much. The other one was some Portuguese love poems. I didn't really get into that one.
Miss Emily Barrett Browning.
Yes.
Songs from Portuguese, huh?
Yes. It was okay, but I took them back. Came back, tried to get some more poetry books. I really, really loved Emily Dickinson. Just read a few of her poems, and I was like, "Whoa, this is incredible."
What do you find fascinating about her? What do you like about her?
Yeah, just the I don't know. I can't even describe it. It's like there's something amazing about what. I can't answer that question. I don't know. It's just good. I feel like. No, I can't. I literally can't say.
Not yet. Too soon.
Too soon.
All right.
I'm still exploring.
Fair enough. Now I noticed when you were at the open mic, there was a biblical theme in your work. Tell me more about that. What inspires you?
Yeah. I met Jesus back in 2014, and what it was is what I was kind of thinking coming into this is when you are in Jesus' presence, when you believe in Him, He fills you up. So there's this filling in my heart that I have, And so when I sit down to write poetry, I'm completely filled already, and I can write poetry from a place of pouring out of what's filling me. And so I met Jesus in 2014, and when I met him, he totally changed my experience of I was falling to certain temptations over and over, and when I met him, he gave me the power to resist. And so I actually had something to offer. I had like this this acumen, this power, this integrity that was not there before. And so this experience of meeting Jesus, is continually changing me. And so what I want to capture is like what that experience is, and describe like that moment when you just see Jesus and you're like, this is totally satisfying my soul and totally different from what I expected.
Wow, that's quite deep, sir. I wanted to ask you something I'm gonna start to ask others as well. I love individual opinions on this. To you, what is deemed as great writing or art or music, and what is deemed as inappropriate filth, in your opinion?
Right. Well, I think it comes down to motive. So if my motive for writing a poetry, and I'm praying that this won't happen, if my motive becomes for other people to be impressed or something like that, then it's vanity. If my motive is to shock people or do something, just out of vanity, then that is smut, in a sense. That it's not about necessarily the content. Even poems with overt sexual content, I wouldn't necessarily consider to be smut if the motive behind writing it was out of this pure desire to capture something, to produce something, to see something in a way that is beautiful, to capture beauty. So I think that it really comes down to your motive for writing the poetry.
I like that a lot. Okay, well, on that note, why don't you go ahead and read us your two pieces? That'd be great.
Sweet. So my printer has not been working, so I've got it on my phone.
Quite all right.
Forgive my use of modern technology. All right. Can I stand up?
You certainly can, sir.
Disrupt your frame.
Oh, cool.
Okay. All right. Once I said, my soul is an empty field. It lies fallow, waiting for the seed of life. He showed me where it was. In a vision, I saw a beautiful city. Its walls were the purest white. Outside was a red wasteland extending past the horizon. Jesus and I stood outside the city. He was wearing a white robe, and I was just as I was. Come into the city, he beseeched me. There I would find life, but he warned me, you must become the servant of all. So I left in search of my own way. To be a servant was beneath me. I said in my foolishness, perhaps I will find it in pleasure. But when pleasure ceases, the sun rises and withers my joy. Surely I will find it in success. But success is a toilsome affair, and all my strength yields only thorns and thistles. Truly I will find it in religion. But without understanding, religion takes no root, and birds devour my inheritance. So I was desperate and alone. I prayed to the God I didn't believe in. I am so lonely. Please fix my loneliness. And the God I didn't believe in heard my prayer. And he led me to his church, and his church led me to him. His word is the seed of life, and to obey it is to live. If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink, my Lord cried out. And so my thirst was quenched, my field was watered, and my life began.
Yes, sir.
Sweet. I'll clap for myself. Alright, this poem's not finished yet, but I'm just going to read it anyway.
Cool.
Here is my life, Lord, it's yours. Take it and do as you please. Give me your treasure, your heart, your word. I'm begging you on my knees. My soul is an empty grave ashore. I'm waiting for you to beach. So land in my heart, my mind, my core, and wash me whiter than bleach. Your power transforms my life anew. I travel to distant lands, seeking the way, the life, the truth, the one who numbers the sands. The legend is real, the mystery true, the death of the innocent lamb. Can't get those last two verses.
I like that, though. I mean, I like your performance. It's very theatrical. I really like that, and especially in the field of what they call slam poetry. There's a lot of movement involved, whether the poet has memorized their piece or not, and that's what I part of the time I see certain people, whether they just choose to read or memorize, or there's a lot of theatrical movement. It depending on the piece, it can help. I've often heard that some pieces are better when spoken aloud, and some pieces read better than they speak. It's very odd how that works.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, before we conclude this interview, why don't you give us your website and your info, where can we find you and your future work?
Yeah, well, my website is www.timothyquast.com. That's just my name. It's pretty nice to have that one, and it's just a personal website right now. It doesn't have a poetry section, but ZMY has given me a good idea of posting my poetry on my website, which is I think that's a totally great idea, because, yeah, I would love for people to be able to enjoy it. So, yeah, you can find it on www.timothyquast.com, and that has some other information, other links to stuff I'm doing.
All right. We've been here today with Mr. Tim Quast, and thank you very much for being here with us today. Poetry Lives, signing out.